So now you're an illiterate immigrant. You're stumbling about in the chaos, trying to make yourself understood. People are talking to you, and you just don't get it. Your kids get it. Children learn Hebrew very fast. But you're the parent, the illiterate immigrant parent who doesn't understand very much.
Traditionally, children are the ones who are seen and not heard. In Israel, I think it's probably better if parents are the ones who are not heard and preferably not seen either.
I really wanted to practice my Hebrew because everyone said you must practice. So, okay, went up to the counter and I was just about to ask chicken without skin. I forgot what skin was. I thought, I remember there's a doctor of skin and sex, min va'or. So I asked for off bli min b'vakasha, which is chicken without sex.
The army is an intrinsic part of Israeli life. Until recently, immigrants, even in their 30s, had to do national service. Johnny was trained as a paramedic when he joined the army.
The headquarters asked us, is everybody okay? And they said, yes, everybody's okay. And could you please report, who is with you in the vehicle? So the guy who was in charge, he looks around, and in the army language, or the communication language, I won't go through, he sort of said, well, there's the doctor here, and there's 2 other paramedics, and there's the old paramedic. Well, I look around me, and I realise he's actually talking about me.
None of us knew Hebrew. So the type of thing, when they ask you to run around, they say you have 30 seconds to run to the tent and come back, with wearing a steel helmet. I would be running to my tent and saying, what did they say? What did they say? One of the Israelis would say, put on your metal hat. But what got me, where we got our revenge, was that in the army you had to say all the time, yes sir, which in Hebrew is, ken mafaked. And we didn't really know that, so we were saying, ken faked, ken faked. And they thought that was the right thing to say, so in many ways we got our revenge for ken faked.
We're just about getting to grips with Hebrew when our child joins the army and there's a whole new Hebrew. Acronyms. When my daughter's in the army, she called me up one day and said, Mum, I've got a chamshush. And I said, what's that? And she said, I'm coming home Yom Chamishi, Thursday, staying Yom Shishi, and Shabbat, a chamshush. A Rav Ush is even better. That's Yom Rivi'i to Shabbat.
So, for example, Samach Mempei isn't pronounced. The letters are simply read out. But when they told me Samach Mempei, I figured they were telling me just the way Samal is said. You're supposed to say the letters. So I would go around saying Samap. And when everyone would burst out laughing, I would try a different combination, like Smoop. And when that didn't work, Smoof. Samaf. I tried basically every combination of those 3 letters I could find, and wasn't successful until someone finally told me that I'm supposed to just say the letters.
Since 1994, all immigrants have to do an Israeli driver's test. Even if you have years of experience and a license from another country, it doesn't matter. When I came to Israel, I had 22 years of driving experience and a license, but I needed to do it again. My driving instruction involved me chauffeuring my instructor around while he conducted business on his phone, and I had to pay him.
I had no choice. I had to cut in front of this driver after the traffic lights. So he wound down his window and he started tearing me off a strip. Matosat, mushugat, and really sort of having a go at me. So I waited till he'd finished, and then I said, Ani mitzta'eret, ani lo makira et hakvish. And he said, Seder, Giveret, ein baya, at betuka. And he almost got out of his Chag Sameach, almost got out and kissed me.
So now imagine the situation. Bring in the name business we discussed earlier, throw in a little bit of the authority issue, and the driving, and this is what you get. Only in Israel.
He shows me on his radar that I was doing 124. And then he asked me, he goes, is your name Rashi? And I said, yes. He goes, no, really, your name is Rashi? You're Rashi? I said, yeah. He goes, Hamza, 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 Hamza. Avinu Malkeinu, chatati lefanecha. Eich ani yachol letet lecha knas? And then he says, Rashi HaKadosh, sa la'at.
It varies from person to person, but eventually you will notice a change.
You get to a point after a number of years when you're not quite Israeli, but you're not quite what you were when the place you came from. And you realise that when you go back.
I was on a bus in England. I went back to visit, and the bus stopped for no particular reason that I could see, and just stayed stationary for what seemed to me like ages. And all these sort of very English people were sitting there, you know, not saying anything. And I went up to the bus driver and said, what's happening? Why is the bus stopped? When's it going to move again? And I got these kind of looks from everybody, because I'd forgotten that just, you don't do that.
How have I changed? I don't take no for an answer anymore. No just does not exist in my vocabulary.
Someone asked me for directions, and suddenly I went, Yashar, had a self. Well, I guess I'm actually becoming Israeli.
I think I'll know I'm Israeli when I can do sponger correctly. Doing sponger means taking a long stick with rubber at the end of it that looks a bit like a broom, around which you wrap a cloth. And you have to get the water exactly right in that cloth in order to be able to clean your floor. And I think my absorption into Israel will be complete when the water is absorbed exactly right into that cloth.
Living in Israel sometimes feels like a roller coaster. Never a dull moment. But we wouldn't live anywhere else.
When I was 13 and I first arrived in Israel, I experienced a very strong sensation of home. And when I first made Aliyah as an 18-year-old or as a 19-year-old, and I joined the army, I realized also that the difference between Israel and the United States is that here my living as a Jew was guaranteed by other Jews and not by the promise of a Gentile to accept me.
In Israel, I'm externally, I don't fit in, but internally, it's mine. I mean, I feel at home. In England, it's the opposite. Externally, I completely fit in. I know everything, the language, the culture, everything. But internally, it just isn't ours.
My chagim, I don't have to make excuses about Friday afternoon, about any other days. I don't have to think if I should wear a kippah of this meeting or not wear a kippah, and what people will think about me and what they won't think about me. It's just completely natural.
In Israel, everything matters because it's our country, and it's important that everything matters.
I'm home.
The barbecue's ready, and the weather's great. Happy birthday, Israel. L'chaim.
רציתי הרבה יותר, אז למה לא הבנת? רציתי שתתעורר, אבל אתה ישנת, הצעתי אבל צחקת.